So that was D&D. What should we do next?
More D&D.
Let's do some more D&D. All right then. So last week we
Yes.
talked about how much D&D stuff there was.
Oh yeah, we went through all that interesting data about all the different editions and how many different books there were officially from TSR and Wizards of the Coast, not
Yeah,
third party.
yeah.
Do you have more data for me?
I do. So this is based on an
Ooh.
article on EN World by Echohawk,
Hmm.
who does a lot of D&D collectors series type articles and dives
Cool.
into these things in great detail. Has basically collected pretty much every D&D product and catalogued every D&D product ever, and
Nice.
knows all of this backwards. And obviously likes making graphs and spreadsheets.
Yeah,
So
who doesn't?
a perfect storm. Perfect storm. And last week we talked about how many products each D&D edition had produced, and we
Okay.
sort of saw very clearly on those graphs that D&D second edition was by far the most prolific edition when it came to D&D products, and D&D fifth edition was surprisingly low at only like 6% or something, very, very
Yeah.
low.
I was completely surprised because you asked me to guess which one was the most, and I said fifth edition, and I couldn't have been more wrong.
You couldn't have been.
No.
Yeah. Well, you know, the next section we've got, Echohawk has written a second article, and there's going to be a third one next week as well. This is quite a good little ongoing segment we can do at the moment. So this second one is all about the settings, the D&D settings over the years,
Okay.
of which there have been many.
Indeed.
Yes, yeah. So, basically exactly the same approach, looking at how many products have been brought out for each one,
Hmm.
how much they cost, the page counts, all this sort of stuff to work out what is the most, not the most popular setting, because that's sales figures, but the most supported, I guess, setting.
Yeah.
So this is D&D Part 2 settings.
Hmm.
And it points out initially that the number of official D&D settings depends on who you ask. If you go to
Okay.
Wikipedia, it says there's 27.
Right.
If you go to the Piazza, which is an online D&D community, there's apparently
Hmm.
48.
So is this because they're using different definitions of what setting means, or
Yes,
why?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean, some of them, for example, is a subsetting within the Forgotten Realms, another setting, or is that just the Forgotten Realms?
Hmm.
So
Okay.
who knows? Who knows? But what we're doing here is, although there's a lot of them, and some of them are quite small, like Jackandor and things like that. Echohawk has brought it down to like the 12 biggest ones
Okay.
over the years, just to make this manageable.
I
So
mean,
the
I
12 biggest
recognize
settings.
I recognize a lot of those old settings, and I have never even played a lot of the older ones. So yeah,
Well, here we've got Greyhawk. We
yeah,
have
I know that one.
Dragonlance, my favourite.
I have played that.
Lankmar. Forgotten Realms. God, no, that can't be popular. No, I can't think.
No,
Can't think there'll be many products for that.
a niche,
Spelljammer. Yeah, we've got
which they
Ravenloft.
return to. Yeah.
We got Dark Sun.
Are they planning on
We got.
returning to Dark Sun? We had that.
We think they are. That's
There's
what a
been
lot of
hints.
this.
We've
Yeah.
speculated. That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
The Psionics and Arthakana, because Psionics is a feature of Dark Sun. So that was very
Right.
much a hint towards Dark Sun. And there was another Unearthed Arcana recently which had the defiling magic, if you remember,
Yeah, but they
with the
haven't
sort of
officially
environmental stuff.
got it and back on track. They haven't actually announced it, but we are, with context
Yeah.
clues,
We're pretty sure
speculating.
Dark Sun's coming next year.
Okay, cool. Which
It's,
makes sense because
but we don't know.
they did Spelljammer and they did
It's exactly the
Ravenloft.
same
So
pattern,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and
Okay.
also we've got Alkadim, we've got Planescape, we've got Birthright, we've got Eberron, so we got like 12 settings there.
Yeah.
Okay. We're going to go through some of these, not all 12.
Okay.
So let's start. This is Greyhawk. This is the first TSR produced setting. This was no, it wasn't the first TSR produced setting. It was the first TSR produced Greyhawk supplement was called Supplement 1 Greyhawk. And we've got a graph here which shows how much Greyhawk stuff has come out over the years. What's interesting about these graphs is you can see where all the big gaps are and when they were produced.
Yeah.
So some of them you'll see that like there's a couple of things back in the 1970s in a big gap and then something in the late 2000s. Or you might
Yeah.
see that something's been like constantly supported for 30 years.
Yeah.
Or there's a couple of big spikes or something like that. So it's the patterns that are really interested here. So this is Greyhawk.
I have a question though, because in the charts it's showing the difference between folios, soft covers, hard covers, and box sets. What's the difference between a folio and a soft cover?
A folio, I think, is you've got like a cardboard outer thing. It's not like a slip case because it's kind of like a cardboard thing that closes like that, and then it's got stuff inside it,
Okay.
like a paper booklet inside it.
Okay. Because they've
It's
done a
like
lot more of them
yeah, that was a popular format back then, I guess.
back in the day. Looks less
Greyhawk,
popular in the future, yeah.
so Greyhawk, 42 products
Okay.
in total. There are two lists for each of these, and if you want to look at those, you can. There will be a link in the show notes. You can go and look at the actual graphs. There's a list for each one, which we're doing, and there's also an expanded list, which will often up to double the number of products for each one.
Okay.
But we're not going to include those for now.
Okay.
We're just
But we'll
going
have
to
the
look
link.
at the sort of the major officially produced stuff.
Okay.
So, pardon me. 42 products for Greyhawk, mainly stacked, as you can see, sort of in the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah.
It was when the big sort of Greyhawk boom was, with a sprinkling of stuff before that in the 70s and early 80s, and almost nothing since.
Yeah.
So that's Greyhawk. The next one we have is Dragonlance, my favourite. As you can see, was very,
Wow.
very, very popular in
That
the mid to late 80s and early, up to the early 90s.
this graph looks a lot more populated than the other one. Like you said, it's pretty consistent stuff going on between 84 up to 2000.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can see the scale on the left, so it's going from 0 to 8 on these. Not all of them will, because some of the product lines are just on a bigger scale and the amount of
Yeah.
stuff that's been introduced. But these are going from 8. So like on Dragonlance at its peak, which was in what was that, 1998? 98 is that? Yeah.
Yeah.
There were 7 products produced in that year, as you can see.
Cool. Okay.
So Dragonlance, very, very popular for a long time and then just stopped dead, basically around 2000. Basically around the time 3rd edition came out. 2nd edition ends, 3rd edition comes out, Dragonlance stops dead, apart from a brief revisit recently in the last couple of years.
Yeah. All right, cool.
One product. Two products, one product. My verse of the world says, don't folios go into binders? Do they? Maybe they do. Maybe I'm not defining folio correctly. I don't know. Who knows? Nobody knows. There's no possible way to know these things. It is a mystery.
I'll Google it.
We could just look it up, but that sounds far too much like hard work.
No.
Anyway,
tell me about other settings.
Yeah. Well, Dragonlance 69 products, by the way, in total.
Okay.
Forgotten Realms.
This is a much more consistent between 87 and 2023, and the scale is bigger, so the scale goes.
The scale is twice the size as well. Yeah. As you can see.
Yeah.
Forgotten Realms has been basically supported constantly since the mid 1980s at about twice the rate of anything else.
Yeah, that is
coming to 193 products in total.
And that makes sense because that is like the default setting, isn't it? So it's
They say. I mean, they Wizard of the Coast insists it's not.
Okay. It's also not a new edition, isn't it?
It's also D&D 24 is not a new edition, and Forgotten Realms is definitely not the default setting.
Okay, cool. As long as we've got that clear, what's next?
Next, I took 4 of the others and whacked them onto one single chart.
Because these are all stuff that was from like the 80s and 90s.
Can we zoom that in into full screen just so we can see it a little more clearly?
Absolutely.
Is that possible? Yeah.
So
we've lost the tops now, so we don't know which is which. So we've got Ravenloft, we've got Planescape, and what were those 2 top ones?
On the left, we have Something, and the one on the right
Spelljammer
is
and Dark Sun.
Okay.
Spelljammer and Dark Sun. Okay. I can tell there's a capital S there, and that's the only one I can think of it could be. Spelljammer and Dark Sun. So Spelljammer, as you can see, big support in the early 90s, and then nothing until like 2 years ago when there was that one product.
Yeah.
Dark Sun, similar, early 90s, a load of stuff, and then almost nothing for years and years and years.
Mm,
Ravenloft, these all have the same pattern. It's just when their big thing was. So for
yeah,
Ravenloft, again, it was early 90s up to about 10 years it had
yeah.
decent support, and then pretty much nothing. And then Planescape, of course, up until like the 2000s, and then that kind of stopped.
It's interesting. Ravenloft is a very well loved setting, though. This is the one I see a lot of people running, or I want to do
Mm,
Castle Ravenloft. That's the one that has, with a lot of 5e newer players, that's the one that
mm,
captures their imagination more than others, I found.
yeah.
Anecdotally, but I wonder why that is. I don't. Do you think it's just because there was a huge volume of stuff for it at the time? I don't know.
Oh, possibly, yeah. I mean, it's got a scale that goes up to 15 again, unlike the
And
others.
and
Oh, no,
maybe
that
it's
goes to
'cause-
10, that one, sorry. Up to 10.
maybe because it's horror as well. If you're looking for a bit of a horror thing, is that the
Mm.
setting that you go
Well, let's
to?
look at the number of products for each. So there's Spelljammer, we had 22 in total.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ravenloft, 66 in total.
Yeah, see, there's a lot more.
Yeah. Dark Sun, 36.
Mm-hmm.
And then Planescape, we had 31.
Okay. So yeah, Ravenloft does have the highest volume of products.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Um, uh, yeah. So Damien in the comments says which had the most spin-off media, novels, comics, video games, etc. This is a lot of the expanded stuff, which you can go if you go and look at the actual article. It does go into those as well. It's just that I've tried to keep it sort of manageable just for the sake of this piece.
Mm-hmm.
But there will be a link in the notes so you can go and look at. There's so many more graphs. And
Yeah.
also other settings as well. There's Mystara, there's Al-Qadim, there's loads of them. There's those 12 that we first mentioned there. But anyway, so this is a look at the total number of each setting, or each of those 12 settings, to clarify. You can see there that Forgotten Realms, by far, with over 200 products, is in the lead.
And then Dragon.
Followed, surprisingly, by Mystara.
Yeah, what is Mystara?
A very, very early setting.
Okay.
Pre
Oh,
AD&D.
is that when TSR was very prolific and making a lot of content? Is it part of that?
That was No, that was later. That was D&D
Okay.
second edition era when they
Okay.
started just producing so much stuff.
It caused the implosion that we talked about
Yeah.
previously. Okay. I've not even heard of Mystara, so I was surprised to see that one in there. I know after that you got Greyhawk, Dragonlance, and
Mm,
Ravenloft, which doesn't surprise me because they're ones that I know about from around,
yeah.
even as somebody
Well,
that
the interesting
only
about Mystara is it kind of didn't exist until the 90s, even though it did back since the beginning of the 80s. So basically, it was kind of like an implied setting in the basic D&D sets, starting with, I think, the Isle of Dread, Module X1. And it was like an implied setting, but it was never named. No one ever said, this is the Mystara setting. It's just that a lot of these like basic D&D products are all kind of linked together. And they were clearly kind of like implied to be the same world. And eventually, in I think it was 1991, in a Dragon magazine article, Bruce Hurd, one of the TSR folk, referred to it as the known world, and Mystara contains both the known world and the hollow world, so named the setting Mystara. And that's basically where the world of Mystara comes from. So it kind of grew kind of organically in an implied kind of way before it was kind of formalized in the 1990s of saying, okay, this is a setting and this is what it's called.
similar to my origin story.
Yes. Yeah. So that's interesting. So we start with Forgotten Realms, Mystara is the second, and then Ravenloft and Dragonlance look pretty similar there.
Yeah. And they're ones I'm familiar with, so that doesn't surprise me. Because even as somebody
Yeah.
that I have only ever played Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, because my journey into tabletop RPGs didn't start with D&D, so I kind of missed a lot. So
Yeah. 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 So, I mean, I love these articles that Echohawk does. Someone on YouTube doesn't, says that they disagree with our last segment on this, and I've tried to sort of drill down and find out what it is they disagree with, because basically it's just counting and some numbers and some graphs. but I haven't quite managed to figure out what it is they disagree. If they could let me know what it is specifically they disagree with, and whether they have better numbers and better graphs, or talk about those better numbers and better graphs if you disagree with ours. But I'm going with Echohawk because I don't think there's anyone on the planet that's catalogued D&D to the extent that he has.
Well, we shall
Except for this
see.
person on YouTube who clearly has as well, but is not sharing this information, just saying that ours is wrong.
Yeah, well, the internet do be like that sometimes. Okay, well,
I guess so.
I do love a bit of data from the hobby, so it's great those articles are up and to have a deep dive read through them. But those initial figures are interesting, so thanks for sharing.
Yeah, and like I say, you totally please do go to the article and read it, because we can only scratch the surface as a new segment here. We could literally talk about that for an hour on its own quite easily, but basically it would be an hour of us reciting numbers and looking at graphs, and I don't think that's the most entertaining thing in the world.
That's not everyone's idea of entertainment. I'm sure there are some people that like the idea of that, but perhaps not everybody.
Yeah. Well, we'll have another one coming out next week. We'll have another one from Echohawk coming out next week. He's actually written it, and I've seen it, but we'll save that to next week. I'm loving this series, so.
Yeah, someone said, I'm sure they're in denial of how much they've spent on D&D over the years. No, I don't think they are, because they've calculated that as well, so they know the exact figure.
We did cover the cost last week, yes.
Yes, so that is in last week.
That was actually quite scary.
Yeah, it done it, by addition. So if you're wanting to know the cost, that is in the first article we talked about last week.
Yeah, well, next week we'll be looking at magazines, just as a clue, as a hint as to what next week is. We're looking at magazines next week.
Lovely, love that. All right.